Hello, lovely people. Welcome back to the Better Luck Next Time podcast. And this episode, we're going to be talking about body image, body dysmorphia, relationships with body, what's impacted that, what I think has impacted it for me, whether we trust the camera or the mirror, all those classic TikTok debates that we experience on the daily. Especially as women. Obviously men experience this as well, but I feel as though growing up as a woman, it is inbuilt in us to criticise how we look from the moment we become self-conscious on becoming a woman. Because if you think about it, I can't think of a time when I wasn't worried about how I looked, about my weight, my skin, my hair, just every single detail that I perceived to be imperfect. I can't remember a time that wasn't on my mind. And there obviously was a time where that wasn't part of my everyday life. Because if you think about it, kids don't care how they look. Kids just want to play and have fun. They don't care what kind of outfit you put on them. They don't care how their hair is really. They don't care if they've got spots, not that they really have spots, because obviously they haven't hit puberty, they haven't got an influx of hormones affecting how they look and how they perceive themselves on a daily basis. The priorities are very much in the core of, I just want to play in the mud. Or, I want that new Barbie. I want to watch regular show. Stuff like that. And then just one day, without us realising, that came to an end. It's like that sad saying. Well, it wasn't a saying. Someone said online once that one day we went out and played for the last time and didn't even know it was going to be the last time. And now we can't think back to it. It just happened. And now we're adults. And I think it's the same for body image. One day we just became very aware of how we looked and probably looked in the mirror and thought, I'm not actually too sure if I like that person that I'm seeing. Does anyone else like that person that they have to see every day? I've got to do something about this. So I think it definitely happens for girls sooner. I think I can remember being as early as 10, maybe earlier, where I became very aware of my weight and I became very self-conscious because I wasn't overweight, but I was very round. I've always had a very round face. And I have quite big teeth, and I was quite built for a girl. So obviously when you haven't grown into all those features yet, and you are watching all these lovely movies, your favourite movies, and you realise all those girls are rather dainty and slender and almost ballerina build, you kind of recognise that all these girls look like that, and they're the ones that are on the films, on the series, on the comics, on the magazines, and you don't look like that. So there must be something wrong if no one like you is like that on the magazine. And that's obviously everywhere. Luckily in 2024 we've come to a point where body positivity is infiltrating the media and our everyday lives, which is so refreshing. But it still very much is a point in our lives in 2024 where constant comparison is still happening. So there is a lot of discourse about loving who you are and celebrating uniqueness, but there's also a lot of stupid trends that focus on the minor details of what we should look like compared to what we do look like. For example, like trends on TikTok to do with, oh, do you have a symmetrical face? Do you have, like, I was actually on TikTok this morning and I can't remember the term they used, it was so random. But you know, like how people make up like terms to like describe something, you know, like they'll say like, oh, I'm going to get strawberry cheesecake nails. It's like, so you're getting pink tie-dye? Like, what? Just say you're getting what it is, don't make up. Well, someone had done this with body image, and they had described their arm shape as a particular term. I had no idea what it was. I think it was an American term. I wasn't familiar with it, but it basically described the point of having arms that don't, like your wrist is small but it doesn't go all the way through and like expands as you get to your shoulder, which first of all, that's normal. Like, it's the same for your ankles. If your leg was the same shape all the way up as your ankles, I don't think you'd be upright, babe. Like, I don't think you'd be standing. And it's just this, why have we created such these weird obsessions with, oh, I've got like an arm that like gets bigger as it goes down. I was like, of course you do, babe, that's how anatomy works. Like, just because they're not stick thin and you're not considered like a Victoria's Secret model doesn't mean you're not an ideal body shape. Doesn't mean you're ugly. Like, the obsessions are getting a bit out of hand. Like, do you have this face shape? Are you an hourglass? Are you a pear? Even if you are those things, who cares? Like, sometimes it's good to know because it helps you understand how you want to dress, how you should style your hair to fit like certain face shapes, what accentuates certain features, how to do your makeup to enhance those features, not hide them. So it's a very complex realm, isn't it? It's overwhelming. But there's a big debate which I've been very interested in, which I also put on my Instagram. If you guys had a look at my story, I actually put a poll and I asked you guys whether you trust the camera or the mirror in how you look. And the majority of people actually said the mirror, which I can understand. I'm kind of on the fence. I couldn't decide if I prefer myself in the mirror or the camera. I honestly think it depends. It just changes day in, day out. Sometimes I fear having Snapchat open in case I like look at my phone and I get a quick snapshot of like, oh, chins. And then some days I just want to avoid the mirrors because I'm like, that lighting is doing nothing for me. Just a little reminder to the girlies, especially the mental health girlies, drink your water. Because do you get up and drink water straight away, which you're supposed to do? I don't do, but we should do it. So, if you've gotten to midday and you haven't had your water, just a reminder to my girlies, because I know how we work. Hydrate. Anyway, back to what we were saying. But yeah, so I can't really decide. It changes every day because obviously it has a lot to do with lighting. If you have overhead lighting, it's obviously going to be different to a light that is shining from a specific angle. Like, for example, I do my videos facing my window because I know it has the best light. Whereas I'm not going to face my cupboard because it's dark and dingy and I'm not going to look like a human. I'm going to look like a creeper coming out in a horror movie. So it does depend. And it also depends a lot to do with hormones, as well as how your brain is wired. Obviously, body dysmorphia is an actual illness. Some people really suffer with seeing the reality of how they look. And no matter how good they actually look, they will not believe that, and they will see something completely different in the mirror. So that has a big impact on people's lives. And self-perception is ever changing. It is never just a straight line of self-perception. Like, I feel as though I wake up and look different every day. Like, what? Why? And I did actually look into why, because it felt like one day I could roll out of bed and think, wow, like, I actually look alright today, like my skin's okay, or even if my skin's bad, I'll think, yeah, do you know what, I've got a few spots, but it doesn't change who I am, I still look good. And then some days I could be spot free and think, why do I look hideous? How is that how I walk around every day? I feel sorry for you all. But yeah, so it is ever changing, and I do wonder, how do you guys feel? Do you recognise when you feel good one day and you feel awful the next day? Do you recognise that the day before you were fully aware of how hot you were slaying it? Can you put that input and that evidence to when you're feeling shit? Because I know I've tried and it just doesn't work. I completely forget how I've looked in the past in that moment, and I just think, no, that must have all been a lie. Like, I must look this bad. Like, why is that something our brains do? Why do we just forget about all the times we were serving? Please excuse my hair also, because I've realised it looks like that, and I think it's the static, because it's very humid, but it's gloomy outside, so I think a storm's brewing, and so my hair has decided to brew with it. But anyway, I feel as though there's also a big obsession with, am I camera pretty or am I mirror pretty? Why are we teaching people to do this? Like, oh, I'm like this kind of pretty, like, so don't take photos of me, or I'm mirror pretty, so, you know, I'll just know I look good in person and hope for the best. Just praying. I think that's stupid. Why are we teaching ourselves that we are only good looking in certain circumstances? Because guess what? We're going to be pretty disappointed when we're not in those circumstances. We're just going to automatically feel like we're not pretty, we're not good looking, we're not worthy of, like, the attention that we deserve. Personally, I experience it so much where I'm getting ready for a night out, or I'm going to see my friends, and obviously I'm putting extra effort in for the gals, and I finish up and I'm like, yes, this is giving, this is working, makeup on point, outfit is looking immense, hot as shit, let's take a photo to have proof that I can look like that. Gets to the camera, reality hits. Although, not really reality, because you're looking in the mirror and you're thinking, I see you, bitch, you're looking fine as fuck. And then the camera is not translating it. I get this so much, and I know everyone else gets this. Well, not everyone, but I'm sure a lot of you do. Where you just can't, no matter what you do, no matter the lighting you change, no matter the angle, you try full body, you try above, you try below, you try from the side. It's like, The camera is not capturing how fierce I look. Why? But I could have an average day where I've got no makeup on and I just happen to feel okay looking. Look in the camera. Flawless. Flawless. I look like handsome Squidward. What's the science behind that? Because it must be a mental thing as well as a hormonal thing. But just no matter how hard you try, you can't capture a good photo. I don't even bother when it comes. If I think, wow, I've never looked this good, I don't even bother taking a photo. I'm like, I'll just word of mouth it. I'll write it in scripture. So there was proof that I could look nice and not look like this, like I do every day. Which is humbling when, for the most part, you don't really wear makeup, which I don't. I put mascara on sometimes. But for the most part, when I'm like every day going to work or the gym, I can't be arsed. I'm so lazy when it comes to it. So when I do my makeup and I'm like, oh, I look like a human, I want to feel like my effort paid off. But no, not the case. Apparently not. I also have a huge issue with people taking photos of me. Like whether I'm stood obviously posing with people because I was obviously at an event, or someone takes a candid photo of me. My relationship with candid photos is a toxic one. We hate each other. I don't know what it is about my body and my face, but we cannot be candid in an angelic way. Like, I do not look ethereal. I don't look like a mysterious main character when I just realised I don't have my rings on, and that's really weirded me out. Sorry. I do not look ethereal and like a goddess and like, oh my god, like she looks like she should be in a cafe reading a book, ponytail up, glasses on. Take the glasses off, gal. You're a goddess underneath all that. No, I look like I've just crawled out of a hole. I don't know what it is. I think it's the round face thing. I've never had a great side profile, in my opinion. No, I do have a good side profile. I will not tell myself I don't. However, I don't think it translates as a good side profile in photos, especially candid ones. And every time someone's like, oh, I got a cute candid photo of you, I'm like, it's nice that you think it's cute, but you're lying to me. Lying's a sin, Vanessa. So, I don't know. I feel as though I'm not very photogenic. Sometimes I'll get a candid photo and I'll cherish it. I'm like, oh my god, I look like a normal human being. Like, I'm just going about my day. Look how amazing I look while I'm doing it. Because 99% of the time I do not look like that. And I really envy my friends who I've taken like candid photos of them while we've been on trips, while we've been out in nature and in bookstores and in flower shops. And they look gorgeous. And I'm like, oh, I want to kill you. You look so nice. Teach me your ways. And that is the thing. A lot of it is to do with posing and knowing how your body looks in different angles. Obviously, everyone has particular ways to go about making themselves look pleasing in photos. But I've never been good at that. I'm alright at taking selfies, I guess, but I just feel so awkward when someone takes a candid photo or like a group photo, because I'm like, what do I do with my arms? Like, if I'm hugging someone and they're like next to me, like I've got my arm around their waist and we're smiling, popped my hip, what does this hand do? I've got into the habit of putting my hand on my hip and like cocking my elbow out. But then sometimes I like drop my shoulders, like, and then I look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So that's not seeming to work very well. So I'll have to work on that. But, you know, people have entire, like, TikTok courses on how to pose properly. And I do see the difference in what they mean when they show the comparisons of like, you pose like this, you pose like that. But I just don't have the patience and the time, so I'm just going to keep looking like an evil villain in like the evil witch from Snow White until the day I die. We also need to remember that the idea of a good photo is we only want a good photo because we want to share it online. I mean, not everyone does, but that's why how we were brought up. We were brought up with Instagram and to share a good enough photo of yourself that everyone else will like. So a lot of how we looked like has been very much to do with how other people feel about us. Whereas now I feel as though I'm getting into a stage in my life where I post things for memories and because I like the photo, rather than thinking, is that good enough for Instagram? Because who cares if it's good enough for Instagram? There are millions and millions of people on Instagram with millions and millions of photos and millions of followers following each other, liking each other posts. This doesn't mean anything though, does it? Like, if you're a business, obviously you want to work on visually appealing content, but if you're just a normal Joe like me, just post what you want. Just like enjoy the creative part of posting yourself and posting your memories, and see it as something to look back on as like a virtual photo book, rather than like a portfolio for your social life. Because I think then you'll actually take better photos because you're not caring how you look. You're just having fun, and then that will translate because you'll look at the photo and go, I look happy. I look like I'm enjoying my life, rather than, see, my hair looks flat from the back. Who fucking cares? It's not my business what's in the back of my head anyway. She can do whatever she wants, as long as she doesn't disrupt me, which is very humbling when I've looked at the back of my hair. I have very flat hair. But just post what you want. That's the takeaway for today, if nothing else. But, and this is reflecting on people with uteruses, we have serious fluctuations when it comes to hormones and how we perceive ourselves. So, people with uteruses and people who experience periods obviously have different phases of periods. And there's 4 phases, and I am still learning them myself. Only in the last 6 months did I become more educated on what happens, because obviously in school you're not taught this thing. I was very lucky as I was in a position where my mum educated me a lot to do with my anatomy and sex and periods. I was always very comfortable talking about stuff like that with my mum, whereas obviously some people don't have the privilege, some people just find it uncomfortable. But even then, like, mum didn't know, she wasn't taught, I wasn't taught in school, even though it is basic anatomy of a female and people with uteruses to have this is not really discussed. So there are 4 phases, and obviously menstruation is the most widely known, which is your period. And obviously you and your body change when this happens. And we don't really take into consideration how much that changes our perceptions of ourselves. And I think we need to start being kinder with ourselves, because when you go through your period, you are going through period cramps. Some people experience severe nausea. You get inflamed, you get bloated, your skin plays up. It either goes really blotchy or like spotty. I get really bad spots and I get really dry when I'm on my period. And obviously it'd be different for everyone. Some people get more greasy skin. Oh, it's just a never-ending list of symptoms that we have to deal with on top of everyday life. So, of course you're going to see your body differently. Your body is a powerful thing that's getting you through day in, day out. And obviously menstruation comes with a lot of bloating, mood swings, like especially me, coming up a few days, even a week, sometimes more, before my period, I begin to feel so down, so anxious. I completely switch perspectives. I become really pessimistic. That was very Australian of me. I'm trying to have a serious conversation. I just switched into an Aussie. I become very self-critical. And I'm about to shed like a snake. I do not need to be putting all that pressure to look a specific way on top of that. And neither should you. And then there's other phases that I really encourage you guys to look at, because it's really interesting, the different phases and how you are affected in your body and your mental health during those stages. And I think once you understand them better, which I'm trying to do, you can start to recognize a pattern in behaviors and how you see yourself, and then you can work towards dealing with that when it comes to it, rather than just straight up like Russian rouletting how you're going to feel that day, which I think for the most part we've all been doing. Luckily we have period trackers like Flow, and there's another one that I can never remember that uses your Apple Watch to like track, and it's really good natural birth control. So luckily we have stuff like that, but for the most part I just kind of guess when it's going to happen, because I mean we've been dealing for it for quite a few years now, so we become well acquainted with what our body does when we're coming to that point. But there's also a phase which is very interesting to me called the luteal phase, where that's the point where you begin to get those cravings more so than usual, and you begin to swell, bloating again, you get the breakouts. Like, in reality, women only get one normal week in their life per month. Isn't that nice of Mother Nature? Thanks, gal. So, obviously, this has a lot to do with who we become in those few weeks. So, we need to take that into consideration when we're looking in the mirror and thinking, I don't look the same. You're not. You are. You're still you. You're still worthy. You're still beautiful. But you're not the same. You've got different hormones going on. But just take it day by day, because it's normal, it's natural. And just because you think you look different doesn't mean you look different. It's just yourself for that day thinks of who you are differently in that moment in time, because the priorities shift. And you think, because your priorities aren't clean girl aesthetic, let me eat healthy, let me like get up early, and instead you've switched to perhaps the luteal phase and you're exhausted more than usual, you're craving like a massive cupcake, you're swelling, you're like, what's wrong with me? Like, why have I like changed all of this good habits into what I am now? And it's not a case of you've gone into bad habits and you've digressed. You're just changing your priorities and fueling your body with what it needs. And I think we need to start doing that with how we look at ourselves when we are going through these stages. And we need to support each other, because I'm very lucky with my period that I don't have severe nausea, I don't have really, really bad cramps. They can get bad, but they're not to the point where I'm bed bound. Some people genuinely can't get out of bed, they're that painful. And to be dealing with that on top of hating how you look, it's just a waste of time. Do not waste time on what you think you should be when what you are is already everything you need. Because you are everything you want to be, and you always will be. You can recognise that you want to progress or learn new things, or I don't know, maybe build a bit more muscle, maybe like slim down, but you're still whole, whether those things change or not. So do remember that when you see yourself today and think, yeah, who cares if I'm camera pretty or mirror pretty? I'm me. That's all that matters. So, I think that concludes this week's episode. I felt this was a very wholesome episode. This is really cute, this episode. I really hope this helps people. I'm no miracle worker and I'm no scientist, I'm no psychologist in any way. But I'm just a girl who feels how you feel. And I hope we can create a community where maybe we share these experiences with how our self-perception changes during our cycles, how we've been affected by these silly trends on social media with symmetrical faces and how you look and how your legs look and how your thighs look and how your bum looks. And let's just all forget that and just recognise that let's just go on with our life and have fun and post things because they're pretty and we like them and not because we're going to get validation from them. So, that's it for today. I hope you all had a lovely ordinary day and I will be seeing you next week. See you later.